So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Yes, it has been quite a while, I realise. It's been more than quite a while. It's been a bloody decade. It's been over a year. Yes, don't ask me what happened because I don't really have an explanation other than life. Life happened. So I thought, what better way to make a comeback than to do it on my favourite time of year, which is Halloween. Halloween is my all-time favourite holiday. It beats Christmas for me, even beats my birthday. I don't care about my birthday. I wish my birthday could be on Halloween so I could call it Halloween. I'm just gonna leave. So today, as you can see from both the title and the intro, which I will have created, I hope. This is past Hannah talking to future Hannah, remember to create that intro. As you can tell, we are creating a Silent Hill nurse costume. If you don't know what Silent Hill is, it's a horror game. There is quite a few in the series. They did also create some films, but we're not going to talk about them. But basically, in this game, they have all these different monsters and characters, and I decided to go with one of the most popular ones, which is the nurse. I will pop a picture up here so you can see what the nurse actually looks like if you need a reference picture. But if you literally just Google it, there's like tens of millions of different reference pictures. So yes, I am going to shut up now because I've been blabbering on, and we are going to get into this makeup tutorial. So I will see you on the other side. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, we are going to create the mask for the costume by making a plaster cast of our face. For this, you are going to need a clean face, so I'm just going to take my usual facial cleanser and remove all of my makeup. Okay, so once our face is squeaky clean, we are then going to need to apply a thick layer of Vaseline to our face. The reason why the layer needs to be thick is so that when we put the plaster onto our face, it will be a lot easier to remove. Because trust me, if you've ever tried removing plaster from your face without the Vaseline there, I can tell you right now, it's very painful. So once the Vaseline is on, we need to protect our hair, and you can do this by bringing the term bag head to life. Yes, we are going to place a plastic bag over our hair, also covering the forehead. Once you have reached the peak of sexiness, we can now begin placing the plaster. You will need a bowl of water to dip the plaster into. I also opted for the Plaster of Paris strips just because A, they are easier to work with, and B, they look more like bandages. The first placement of the strips needs to be across the middle of the face. As you can see, I place it diagonally across my face, avoiding my eyes, and same for the second strip, just the opposite way. Once both strips are down, I do press down in the middle just to make sure the strips are actually sticking together. Next, we're going to create the outer structure of the mask. You do this by placing the strips around the outline of the face. This is to create a kind of foundation for all the other strips to actually stick to. Then once the face is done, you can begin placing the strips wherever you want. Well, not wherever you want, try and stick to the face. I do try to keep them going in the same direction, as you can see. I also avoid the eyes and the nose just because, well, I enjoy breathing and seeing. So once you're finished, you can go ahead and, yeah, I guess have your own little dance party, as I'm doing right now. Now I'm just going to chill out and let the mask dry. You can use a hairdryer to help this process along, just make sure you keep it on a low heat or else the mask will just crumble and fall apart. So yeah, I will see you guys in, well, the next clip. See you on the other side. So now we're going to move on to actually painting the mask. As you can see, I have actually added more layers to the mask. Unfortunately, my camera decided not to record this, but all I did was wait until it was almost dry, added a few more strips, and that was that. So the paint I'll be using is just some cheap acrylic paints, just using the colours red, white, black and yellow, and then just mixing them together to make all different types of colours. The brushes I used were actually makeup brushes. This was because A, I forgot to buy paintbrushes, and B, it turns out they actually make really good paintbrushes. So to start off, we're going to use a cream colour. This is to make the bandages look more authentic, as bandages are more of a off-white colour than they are pure white, and we're just going to go ahead and cover the entire mask with this colour. So now we're going to take a smaller brush and what can only be described as a baby poop colour and use this to start outlining where all the bandages are. This is just going to create more of a shadow effect, as well as making the bandages look like they're actually raised up off the face. Now I'm just going to be taking a very watered down grey colour and just using this to add some more darkness to the mask and make it look a bit more dirty. Then I just go back in with that brown colour and just put it where I see fit. Honestly guys, there is no technique to this painting. I just kind of throw the colours where I feel and hope for the best. Main thing is, as long as we're all having fun, it's all good.
And I can't look the other way. I'm chasing starlight to find a starlight away.
So next I'm starting to add red onto the mask. I use this by first of all just dotting it in the areas that I want, and I then go in with a fluffier eyeshadow brush to blend it all out. This is so that it looks more like it's been bleeding through the bandages, more than being just like sat on top of it. So after that, it's completely up to you how you paint this mask, whether you add more blood to it, whether you add more darkness to it. You could paint it completely pink if that's what you really felt like. For me, I am pretty happy with how the mask turned out, so now we're going to move on to the makeup portion of this tutorial. So as you can see, I'm here looking oh so beautiful and for some reason having a massive red patch on my face, but let's get into the makeup side of this tutorial. So first we're going to be creating both a cut on our face as well as a bullet hole. Don't ask me why, this is just what I'm going with. So first of all, I'm going to take my liquid latex and I'm going to paint some onto the area where I want the cut. Then with pieces of cotton wool, I'm going to create a kind of oval shape on top of the latex. I am then going to cover that cotton wool with latex as well. I am then taking the end of any little brush that I have and just blending out the edges of the latex. This is just so it makes it easier when you start applying makeup, it just blends into the skin a lot more easier. I then use the edge of the brush just to start pushing out the edges of the inside of the cut. This is just so it makes it look more like the skin is raised, gives it a bit more of a gory, creepy effect. It also helps if you're using fake blood because it stops it dripping out everywhere. And then just repeating that whole process again for the upper layer of the cut. And this is what your first wound should be looking like. So now we're going to move on to the bullet hole in the head. First of all, once again, just putting down that liquid latex where you want the wound to be. And then taking the cotton wool and placing it in a circle shape where the latex is placed. And then once again covering that cotton wool with another layer of latex. And again using the end of a brush just to smooth out the edges of the wound, as well as raise the edges of the inside of the wound just to make it look more like the flesh is coming away from the actual wound. Drink every time I say wound. And here's what your bullet wound should be looking like. So now that we have both of the wounds created, we can now begin applying the actual makeup. So as you can see, I'm here looking oh so beautiful, and for some reason having a massive red patch on my face. But let's get into the makeup side of this tutorial. So first we're going to be creating both a cut on our face as well as a bullet hole. Don't ask me why, this is just what I'm going with. So first of all, I'm going to take my liquid latex and I'm going to paint some onto the area where I want the cut. Then with pieces of cotton wool, I'm going to create a kind of oval shape on top of the latex. I am then going to cover that cotton wool with latex as well. I am then taking the end of any little brush that I have and just blending out the edges of the latex. This is just so it makes it easier when you start applying makeup, it just blends into the skin a lot more easier. I then use the edge of the brush just to start pushing out the edges of the inside of the cut. This is just so it makes it look more like the skin is raised, gives it a bit more of a gory, creepy effect. It also helps if you're using fake blood because it stops it dripping out everywhere. And then just repeating that whole process again for the upper layer of the cut. And this is what your first wound should be looking like. So now we're going to move on to the bullet hole in the head. First of all, once again, just putting down that liquid latex where you want the wound to be. And then taking the cotton wool and placing it in a circle shape where the latex is placed. And then once again covering that cotton wool with another layer of latex. And again using the end of a brush just to smooth out the edges of the wound, as well as raise the edges of the inside of the wound just to make it look more like the flesh is coming away from the actual wound. Drink every time I say wound. And here's what your bullet wound should be looking like. So now that we have both of the wounds created, we can now begin applying the actual makeup. So for the base, I'm just using my normal foundation. If you do have more of a darker shade skin tone, then you can use a few shades lighter for your foundation. For once, my pale skin has came in handy and I didn't have to choose a different foundation shade. Look at that, pale skin Hannah, actually getting you somewhere in life. For the eyes, I'm then just using my bruise palette, using that bluey purpley colour, putting it in the inner corners of the eyes just to make it look more tired, make it look more kind of like I've been beaten up. Luckily for me, once again, I already have quite dark circles, so it didn't take much. So just taking that same colour and then also just a small thin angled brush, I am then just drawing some veins around the edges of my face. I then go in with a beauty blender to blend these veins out just to make it look more like they're underneath the skin and not painted on. And then I'm just adding some veins under the eyes as well. Next, I'm just taking a pale pink eyeshadow and just blending that into the crease of the eye with a fluffy brush. And then I also take a darker pink colour just to deepen that crease. Next, I'm just covering the entire eyelid with a matte black colour. Make sure it's not a shimmery one, or else you're going to look like a sparkly Silent Hill nurse rather than a creepy Silent Hill nurse. I mean, if you want to be a sparkly Silent Hill nurse, then go ahead. But for this look, I'm sticking with a matte black colour. I am then just taking that same pale pink colour and just putting it on the underneath of the eye. Then I just went back into the bruise palette, taking that same blue colour, and with my finger I just rubbed it into the corner of the eye just to make it look even more dark. Then once I move the mirror out the way, as you can see, I'm contouring, just using a mixture of my usual contour colour with a bit of black eyeshadow. I do also bring the contour right down to the jaw. This is to just make it look more like my cheeks are more sunken in. I then go in with more black eyeshadow just on a smaller brush. This is just to define the cheekbones even more. Then just taking a big fluffy brush, I'm just going to blend that all out. I then just go ahead and set the entire face with translucent powder. So my camera decided to cut out for a second there, but basically this is where my makeup's up to. Now I'm just adding white and grey paint to my lips just to make it look more like I'm completely dead and dehydrated. Not much difference from real life, But moving on. So moving on to painting the actual cuts, I'm just going to take this red colour that I have in my bruise palette, or you can just use a usual red face paint, and I'm just going to start filling in the middle of the cut. I'm then just taking a darker red paint and using that to fill in the very centre of the cut. This just makes it look like there's more depth within the wound, makes it look less flat. I'm then just taking a ripped up makeup sponge with that red colour and dotting it all around the outside of the wound. I then just alternate between the dark red and the light red to just fill out the edges of the cut. And then just repeating that whole process again with the bullet wound. I then decided to add some bruises to the face, just using my bruise palette, or you can use the colours yellow, green, red and a tiny bit of dark blue. Just use them in that order to create the bruise, and yeah, just follow my lead. Now moving on to my favourite part, and that is the fake blood. This is just the Mehron coagulated blood. It's thick, it dries down, but it still has that kind of shiny, like it's not fully dried, scabby texture, if that's the right way to describe it. I don't know, I'm gonna shut up and put the blood on. So when I say the blood is thick, I mean it's almost like a jam texture, it really doesn't move. So as you can see, the minute it touches my face, it's not dripping at all. This is wonderful if you're going on a night out for Halloween, because it is not going to move, your hair's not going to get stuck in it because it dries down. And yeah, I feel like it's just a really handy thing to have if you wanted to get into FX makeup, if you're just doing it for Halloween. This really does come in handy for a lot of projects.
I just want you. I just want you.
I then just use a bit more blood to dot around the cheek and also to make it look like I have a bloody nose. But of course, me and my wonderful filming techniques, I have the mirror in the way. Hannah, move the mirror. You do this every year that we film a video. You put the mirror in the way. I really need to just get a standing mirror. Seriously. And then just for one final touch, I did put mascara on, and then I decided to rub the mascara down my eyes to make it look like I'd been crying, or that maybe I just got caught in the rain. Who knows? This Silent Hill hearse is crazy. She could be up to anything at this point. That sounds really dirty. She's just a nurse. Well, she's a Silent Hill nurse, so I guess they are kind of dirty. So this is what the finished makeup look looks like. So now you have two choices between the mask and this makeup look. So now it's time to go get into my costume and get my freak on. Oh yeah.